CannabisRegion.com. Coming to you guys live from Woodland Hills, California. I've got my homie here, Ian Rassman. Today, we've got the 4th official episode of the Cannabis Business Podcast. Ian Rassman, owner, founder, Rassman Payments, specializes in all kinds of cannabis-related payment processing things. He's your go-to gentleman for all that. Ian, good morning, my friend. How are you today?
What's up, brother? How are you, Joey?
Man, I'm doing well. I'm sparking this joint.
You've been traveling. So
I have.
Actually,
I was in
you're the one that traveled more recently than me now.
Yeah. You spent March and April and parts of May out and about, right? I think I heard a Mexico trip or a Hawaii trip there. I think in May. Now we're in June. Europe. Yeah, Europe, man. You've been all over, dude.
Yeah.
I was in Massachusetts last week at the Flower Expo. Big shout out to Flower Expo for hosting your boy and all our wonderful sponsors. Bada Bloom, Happy Valley, Green Meadows, Trees, some really, really great United Cultivation, some really, really great groups took care of us, man. I really appreciate those guys. But Ian, this is about cannabis business, this podcast. This is a serious episode. And do you know why it's serious? Because the news today, the news this week, absolutely crazy, all right? We've got some major news in the world of cannabis business, okay? I'm going to read through these titles real quick, and then Ian, you're going to kick us off with the first story. Are you ready?
All right.
Yeah. All right, but before we do that, I got to do a little bit of shout-outs and a little bit of social media. First things first. Today's episode is brought to you guys by RMR Legacy Smalls, premium indoor cannabis available in Washington and California. We are looking for partners all across the country as well as the world. Our brand belongs everywhere and anywhere. Number 2, the episode today, the weed that I'm smoking comes from Massachusetts. This is a Harbor House Super Boof 8th. Massachusetts is on the nuts of Super Boof, that orangey Tropicana cookies, flavor, that sweet cherry orange creaminess. Massachusetts loves Super Boof. I used to love Super Boof. It's an old strain at this point, not like classic or legacy or like, GG4 and Northern Lights, like going way back and farther and farther. This is just a great tasting cultivar. Big shout out to Harbor House. 2 years ago when I was there, Ian, weed was super average. Like everything was hay. You guys don't believe me? Look up my YouTube reviews. I did not have great things to say. Now, I'll smoke the whole thing down. The weed smells great. I'm particularly enjoying their black maple strain. It's some freaking gas. Now, that's all I got for you guys. We're going to slide over into these stories. Okay, let me pull them up.
You are the connoisseur of cannabis, no doubt about it.
Come on, man.
What's your favorite? Ian's homegrown?
My favorite weed of all time is Ian's homegrown. I'm just kidding. Hold on one second. There are some major stories being discussed on today's episode. All right, I got to get these social media posts out. All right, live. Okay, you guys, the stories that we're talking about today. Most New York cannabis operators should save big without the potency tax. Story number 1. Story number 2. Mold scandal in Massachusetts leads to $200,000 fine for marijuana MSO. Number 3. There's a big win for Florida hemp industry as the governor vetoes the proposed ban. Number 4. Connecticut governor pauses the state's marijuana social equity fund for review. That's no bueno unless there was bad things going on and he's checking it out. Story number 5, all right? California cannabis product recalls are on the rise. We're going to talk about some of those California product recalls, okay? Now, today, Ian, I'm going to share the screen. We're going to pop over to the first story. Most New York cannabis operators to save big without the potency tax, all right? Ian, can you see this okay?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So as you guys can see here on the article, we've got this giant extraction machinery thing. When you guys go into a lot of these facilities, this is a version of what you'll see when it comes to oil and concentrate extraction in the world of cannabis. Now, Ian, I'm going to let you read through these things. Just let me know when you need to scroll down, okay?
Yeah. Well, as we can see, New York governor is pushing to replace the state's potency tax on cannabis products with a flat excise tax, and that is now in effect. And this seems to be positive for most markets on the East Coast, especially these smaller retailers and processors and our social equity licenses. So anything supporting our social equity licenses, of course, we'd love that. So this is also a win for the consumers, right? Because we're expected to see a drop in price, and of course that's important because especially in New York, they are competing against so many unlicensed weed shops that are all over the state.
I can confirm they are there. That's for sure.
They are everywhere in New York. You don't have to be a tourist for more than a couple of minutes to see that.
Ian, can you read what's this legalization law there in the MRTA law? What can you read what those are? The operators, what are they required to do?
Yeah, so the operators under MRTA are required to pay a half-cent per milligram of total THC for flower, 0.8 of 1 cent per milligram for concentrates, and 3 cents per milligram for edibles.
Wow,
that's what they're expected to pay now.
This is a major quote right here. This is crazy.
Yeah, let's read that in its entirety. For most operators, with the average market pricing, it's created a 25 to 30% tax, says Nicholas Garino, CEO and founder of Natura, a Hosick Falls-based cannabis extractor that distributes solventless hash, live rosin, and distillate products to more than 100 retailers in the state. So these guys are out there getting products.
So I want to revisit that statement. So with average market pricing, the current MRTA law, 0.5 cent per milligram for flower. So 30% flower, if that exists out there, that's going to be 15-cent tax. 0.8 of a cent per milligram for concentrates. So if I've got a 80% concentrate, which is pretty rare in concentrates outside of distillate, that would be 800 milligrams. So 0.8 of a cent per milligram. So 800 milligrams, 0.8, that's 80 cents. 800 milligrams, 80%. And then 3 cents per milligram for edibles. So if I'm eating 10 milligram edibles, 100 milligrams in a bag, 3 cents per milligram for edibles, this is crazy. So 30 cents per edible, $3 per bag for 100 milligram edibles. Am I wrong with that? No, yes. 30 cents. I don't know. Math wasn't my strongest subject. I was a B- student in math. Let's go ahead and skip forward. Ian, talk to me about the corporate and consumer savings. This is nuts.
Yeah, so the potency tax also established untenable prices on some products, such as tinctures, which have faced a $60 tax markup per unit in some cases. Wow, right?
Jesus.
Tax change. Natura plans to lower prices on roughly 30% of its offerings with discounts of 15 to 35%. Ouch. That's hard for them, but good for the consumers. It should allow operators to have some profitability, reinvest in their growth, and reinvest in marketing. That's important.
Right? That's huge, right? Because in California, in Colorado, all the stories are about how the market's crashing, right, and how the market's tight, and how it suffocates itself. Washington State, where I'm from, Oregon, we see not enough licenses, then we saw too many licenses, then we saw too much products, and then the taxing. It just led to a perfect storm.
We need to make sure that all of these licensed operators are taxed at a rate where they can afford to move forward and build and grow and bring in more revenue, which brings in more tax. But we can't squash them with tax at the onset, or they won't make it.
It says here in the same story, Ian, in the first 3 months of the year, Silly Nice, a black and veteran-owned brand headquartered in NYC, paid nearly $20,000 just in THC taxes.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of money. It's like almost $7,000 a month, huh?
The economic impact considered a wash. For New York's vertically integrated operators such as Chicago-based PharmaCann, the economic impact of the policy shift is expected to be nominal. That's because registered organizations, or ROs, New York's term for the 10 multi-state operators licensed to initially service medical market, are taxed in the adult use market at the wholesale and retail levels. All right. In rough terms, Ian, the economic impact is a wash for registered organizations. PharmaCann spokesperson Jeremy Unruh told MJ Biz Daily via email. Time will tell whether suppliers who truly benefit from the change pass those savings on to the consumer. You know what that sounds like, Ian? That sounds like a big ass MSO that sounds salty over some rules that don't exactly help them at the highest level. Didn't that read that way to you?
Yeah, I bet.
Time will tell if those operators that it impacts will ultimately pass on the savings to consumers. Okay, first off, I'm going to go so far as to say I ain't never had any desire to work with PharmaCann. I never had any desire to reach out to them or talk to them. But whoever this Jeremy Unruh guy is, you are officially out, bro. You are out the culture. That is not was not the right thing to say, bro. Absolutely not. Come on, man. Ian, what are your thoughts on this legislation, the taxing? What are your thoughts on just the THC tax in general?
Honestly, like where we certainly have failed in California is overtaxation in a market where there's so much competition from the industry that's not paying any tax, right? So we have to everywhere that cannabis rolls out, all markets need to be very conscientious of what their existing supply chain looks like, pre-legalization, and then post-legalization. We need to make sure that everybody's taxed at a rate where they can survive, and we're not paying overly ridiculous taxes on this product. Like when you compare the taxes that we pay for alcohol, or cigarettes, or any of these other vices, if you will, of which, of course, cannabis hardly could be considered a vice when it's rolling out as medical in all these states. But we're taxing it at an incredibly disproportionate rate to like really anything else that's out there.
I will
Um,
counter, and I just want to play devil's advocate here because people love, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but people love to throw out the this industry versus that. We are treated unfairly. In 2 seconds, I googled alcohol tax, Washington State. It's 20.5%. I just want to throw it out there. Taxing THC makes no sense to me, but a high tax for this type of industry does make sense to me because where I'm from, that's how it was. That's how I came up. And Washington is a state that's strongly against DUIs. It's strongly against alcoholic related. We'll call it the negative things that come with alcohol. And so they come down very hard with the taxes and the fines and things like that and the enforcement of it. Do I necessarily believe that cannabis should be treated the exact same way? No, but I definitely think it's fair to have a lot of that very similar. Just want to throw that out there to people. 20.5% alcohol tax in Washington State doesn't, and not in any way directly compete or compare with, I think it's a 37 or 41% tax there anyways. So it's still not close, but that's still a pretty high tax, 20.5%.
yeah,
All right, Ian, are you ready for the next story?
yeah.
All right, here we go. So this one's going to be primarily mine, but we'll talk a little bit about it. Mold scandal in Massachusetts, you guys. All of our story lineups today are coming out of MJ Biz Daily. I didn't see anything crazy on Marijuana Moment. Not to say that they didn't have anything, but I just went with my favorite five. Today's second story comes out of Massachusetts regulators last month fined multi-state operator Holistic Industries $200,000 after a mold outbreak in which the company allegedly knowingly sold contaminated cannabis. According to an April 15th stipulated settlement between the company and the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, aka the CCC, that was approved May 9th. The agency alleged Holistic knew about a mold outbreak at its cultivated facility in the town of Monson since at least 2020. Crazy. Rather than immediately fix the problem, the company sought out permissive lab testing that allowed the tainted marijuana to pass inspection and be sold, leading to numerous patient and consumer complaints that Holistic cannabis, quote unquote, smelled and tasted like mold, end quote, according to CCC documents. Holistic Industries did not respond to several MJ Biz Daily requests for comment. In a brief statement, CCC spokesperson Tara Smith confirmed the company paid the fine, but she offered no further comment. Allegedly, but they're just paying the fine and not saying anything.
Well, you just came out of Massachusetts.
We're going to just say this. Sounds like they're allegedly pretty guilty. All right, here we
Came
go.
out of Massachusetts this week.
I was in Massachusetts this last week, and I definitely was told a couple things. You know what? Hold on. Rewind. Ian, are you aware that in Massachusetts, The mold and testing requirements are not the same as California or Washington or Colorado. Are you aware that there's a difference? Or is it
I'm
just
sure there's
assumed? Were
differences
you
everywhere.
aware or did you just assume?
I assumed.
Okay, boom. They're not the same. They're different. All right. Number two, are you aware that they're technically stricter over there? Do you think that makes it better or worse in certain situations?
It could go either way depending on the
Crazy,
situation.
crazy, right? So
Yeah.
here's the situation where it can go the other way. There's something out there called like radiation. I'm gonna, for lack of a better word, we're gonna call it companies microwave their weed to get rid of bacteria and mold. All right. Well, think of it as the CRC of flower, right? Think of it as this weed now has been treated in a way where it was specifically to remedy mold and bacteria and things that they probably think weren't going to pass the testing, right?
Yeah.
You get a good idea. A lot, and if you had a $5-10 million facility, would you let your weed, would you not track it with data along the way,
Oh, yeah.
as it was growing? Would you not spend more money to know what's happening in the ground and up the plant through each step of the process, right? So
Absolutely.
I went to 3 facilities. I've been to more out there. They were all wonderful. They were all wonderful. The weed varies from person to person, place to place. They got different cooks in the kitchen, right? They got different ingredients. Some are organic, some are not, right? Got different things, leads to different outcomes. Reality is that these facilities out in Massachusetts are some of the nicest, best funded, well funded, best looking, cleanest, plenty of staff. And even with the market being super saturated and tough out there, just like a lot of places, I still find these buildings to be really, really impressive. One of the key things here is that how are you guys able to grow cannabis in those perfect situations that still comes out, one, low quality, that's genetics and bad staff and a bunch of other things being inconsistent, but two, how can it come out moldy and even, how are you even afraid that it's not going to pass that testing, right, Ian? So for this MSO, I don't understand how it even got to that point. Why would you be okay, not to say you're okay with it, but why, right? And so you have to really question, under all the alleged things here, you have to really question the integrity of the brand. And ultimately, I was in Massachusetts recently. I did smell a bunch of weed that smelled the exact fucking same. Ian, I smelled a bunch of weed that smelled the same. And what's worse is I smoked it to check, I dry hit it to check, and who knows what's now in my lungs. Because it came from my legal dispensary. So you're going to assume it's safe, right?
Right. Yep.
So it's really frustrating to me. Massachusetts, y'all need to hold each other accountable. Y'all need to talk to your peers, host some panels, talk to your legislation about this, and figure out a way to make sure that we have a more consistent, safe, and seemingly less moldy and bacteria-filled product. All right, I don't want to smell anything or smoke anything that tastes like basement terps, Howard Johnson hotel floor terps. You know what I'm saying? The grossest. You ever stayed at a hotel that's dog friendly and allows long term stays? Smells damp and wet and dog like. You know what I'm saying? I don't ever want to be a part of nothing like that again. All right. And the only place I've ever had that experience, hats off to Massachusetts. So this isn't to sit here and shit on the entire industry by any means. There was absolutely incredible weed out there. Let's shout out the incredible weed. Harbor House definitely got up their improvement. I won't say that it's oh my god quality, but I will say that I'll smoke this 7 days a week. I want to really shout out Packwoods, the team out there in Massachusetts. They actually make the best version of Packwoods that I've ever had. Ian, you've had the Packwoods blunts before. We've smoked them out here in California, the
Yeah.
infused blunts. They're
Yeah.
covered in the keef. It's a hemp wrap, big glass tip. It's a huge blunt. But the flower was never that great here in California, and the oil didn't taste like anything, or the keef didn't taste like anything. You go out there to Massachusetts, this shit was fire. Super fire. And then the best flower that I smoked there all week long goes to Impressed. Father-daughter combo, absolutely powerful group. Not only that, but shout out to Allie, man. She was one of the best college hockey players in the game during her time in the NCAA. Super cool, inspiring group. Green Meadow, had the most impressive vape that I had. Nimbus had really impressive dabs and live resin. United Cultivation, a beautiful retail. Just a lot of really great people out there in Mass. But I need y'all to hold these people that are making y'all look bad accountable, man. That microwave radiated weed, whatever that is, that situation needs to get figured out, and people need to talk about it. Those companies that are doing it, they can't hide behind that shit anymore. All right. All right. That's my TED Talk rant. $200,000 fine to Holistic in Massachusetts. Holistic Industries for allegedly knowingly selling contaminated cannabis. Second story. Ian, are you ready?
Yeah, drop me the link there.
This one, I'm going to share it again. We're going to screen share. I'll read mine directly to me. Bam. All right.
All right. This is big.
Big win.
This big story.
Talk to me.
This is really a huge story. Just let's just scan through this a little bit and pick up the highlights here, and then let's talk about it. So this is a major win for the state's hemp industry, and is seen, I think, by some as a setback for the regulated cannabis industry, and has vetoed a bill that would vetoed a bill that would effectively outlaw many popular hemp-derived products in the market, right? So the goals, according to Ron DeSantis, are commendable, but it would impose debilitating regulatory burdens on small businesses and almost certainly fail to achieve its purpose, right? So this would have limited the amount of hemp-derived Delta-9 THC allowed in products to no more than 5 milligrams per serving or 50 milligrams per container.
Wow.
Also would have closed this so-called loophole by redefining total Delta-9 THC concentration under state law to also include THCA, a naturally occurring non-intoxicating cannabinoid that becomes psychoactive THC when heated, right? So prohibited any quantity of synthetic cannabinoids, including Delta-8 and Delta-10 THC, okay?
So they were going to change the milligram dosage allowance for Delta-9 hemp products, right? And then the goal with that would have closed this loophole, right? But then at the same time, that would have shut down any other quantity of synthetic cannabinoids, aka what we describe as human-made cannabinoids, the conversion ones, right? Delta-8 and Delta-10, right? And if you go into Florida, any of you guys, if you guys go into Florida, there are CBD and hemp dispensaries everywhere. They are all over the place. And they have green little plus signs, and they look more like dispensaries than they do smoke shops. Or they look more like a dispensary than they do any other kind of retail that you've ever seen before.
If you were from California or Oregon or one of these states driving past, you'd be like, whoa, what's this? And you'd pull in, right? You'd be like, this might be my store.
1,000%. And that's where, and that's where, like, we need to get some form of stabilization on what actually dispensaries are. Now, there's nothing wrong with hemp dispensaries, but we've just got to clarify how it looks and acts. All right, so Ian, What do we got? What else do we got here?
Well, since that farm bill happened in 2018, hemp-derived cannabinoid products have emerged as an alluring alternative to marijuana and are viewed by the marijuana industry as unwelcome and an unruly competitor playing by different rules. So as a result, many states have taken action to regulate hemp-derived products. In the case of 12 markets, ban outright Delta-8 THC. So they have, skipping down. Yeah, they're both opposing Florida's adult use ballot measure. Is that the end of the story there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I a lot of people live in red states. Medical or recreational cannabis may or may not be coming soon. And these other products absolutely have a place. They have a place even in markets that have adult use cannabis. Some people are looking for these products. I think it is a big win for the hemp industry, and I support it. I think
there's got to be both. It exists. It's got to be there. There's people that rely on it that need it. There's drug programs that currently don't allow people to have cannabis or THC in their system. but some of the POs out there do allow the lower, like the sub whatever, to be okay because
Yeah.
they understand debilitating conditions and things of that nature. The point of this is that the mindset around hemp and cannabis not being together needs to shift. And it needs to
Yes.
shift back to the fact that they
Yeah.
should be governed by similar agencies because of the fact that they do similar things. Now, obviously, hemp, CBD, those things, there's no head high. Well, the way they've written it in the laws is that THC, specifically Delta 9 THC, once it's converted, you're getting high. That's what the books actually say. And so we need to get rid of this whole cannabis looks and feels and acts this kind of way when the science is actually saying this and it's in accordance with laws at this point now as well, right? Um, I don't really know what to say about Delta 8 and Delta 10. I know that I don't eat it. I don't take it. I don't necessarily understand it, but there's a lot of things out there that I'm not going to speak on or go vote for or go vote against simply because other people are doing it or saying it. So I'll leave that for you guys to decide on how to perceive that. I definitely don't want small businesses to go under, but at the end of the day, we've all got to operate and fall within these guidelines within the United States government.
Yeah.
So,
And I think we shouldn't be segregating the plant so much, honestly. This is all about the cannabis plant. And there are many different uses that come from the cannabis plant, many different products that come from the cannabis plant. And this is about consumer choice, right? Like, I support both the hemp and the THC markets. Both of these have their place. And in markets where in states where you may have both, people have a choice. Like you said, you live in California, you know which Green Plus you're going over to. And there's nothing wrong with you having a choice to go get Delta 8 or Delta 10 products here in California. Some people are going to want them. Them being available is not going to slow down the amount of THC that you're purchasing, is it?
I mean, it all comes full circle. The other story, taxing THC. This story, like, I mean, like, treat it. Provide. Can we please get some people that understand the actual business side of this industry to be at a round table with multiple people from multiple regions to build a framework here? Like, everything is so siloed off in cannabis. You have the cannabis industry chirping, yelling, screaming, begging, pleading, advocating, working, grinding, spending money to try to get things to happen. Then you got this hemp side. On LinkedIn, everyone's just beefing with each other. It's just like, if we could stop the silos and finally come together to start talking about the actual ways to build out this country and how that can all overlap, we would see a stronger growth. But at this point, we just got everything siloed and everyone's really just looking out for themselves and their state's best interest. It's going to be interesting.
I've been doing credit card processing for hemp companies, like, really since 2018 is when it just blew up. There's a small little bit before that, but like in 2018, I mean, the race was on, and it was on to such an extent that we saw a lot of ramifications in the payment industry as a direct result of the Farm Bill. So I think what happened in 2018 is you had the Farm Bill passed, and then all of a sudden you just had a plethora of mom and pop shops, as well as larger companies, all setting up websites and products and trying to get online to sell. So at the time, I was just flooded with like inbound phone calls and like emails and like, hey, can you process for the hemp and this and that? And I was like, yeah, let's go. And then I think what we started seeing almost very quickly is that there was so much excitement from the Farm Bill that the back end processors were kind of overwhelmed at all the inbound applications for credit card processing. And, some of them might be companies that are processing, $500 a month or $1,000 a month. I mean, like, this is not a business that's essentially up and running a lot yet. This is a fledgling startup, right? But then you also had companies coming in that threw in 50,000 a month or 100,000 a month. So these are more along the established business lines. But I think just the number of applications that came in from the smaller companies just overwhelmed the whole process. And what we saw happen some number of months after the Farm Bill went into effect is one of the big processors out there that was doing this kind of product got out of the market. Now that was Elevon. So if you had your business processing under Elevon, like they like shut down like with almost no notice, and they're like, we're not in this space anymore. So I think we've seen things come. That was, of course, the pendulum swinging so extreme to one side.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've normalized now on that pendulum swing, and now we're getting a normal volume of things that are coming in at the smaller end and the mid-range end and at the higher end of established hemp companies. And there's definitely established hemp companies out there today.
Huge move and a big win for the hemp industry there in Florida. Very rare occasion that I'll show any love to Mr. DeSantis, but shout out him for vetoing that. I
That's the truth.
It is what it is, bruh. Everybody, we appreciate you guys being here. We got 2 more topics to go over today. Before we proceed any further, again, I just want to shout out to our sponsors. Ian here from Rassman Payments, founder, CEO, partner, been doing payments for a very long time, 2 decades of payment processing in various industries. He's able to help you in hemp and cannabis. Please reach out if you have any questions. This episode is also brought to you guys by RMR Legacy Smalls. We are launching the North American Weed Tour on the hunt for the best cannabis brands, products, businesses, people. We want to tell your stories all across the country. Please reach out if you'd like to get involved. $500 to $1,000 packages to help us get into your region and come film you and interview and make some content. All right, Ian, the next story that we have for you today, Connecticut governor pauses the state's marijuana social equity fund for review. Now, this topic alone is concerning for me because it's like, why are we halting programs? But I want to know why. So we're going to read through this. We want to know why. We're going to read through this, share this with the people. I'm going to share the screen real quick, and then I'm going to bust through this one. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, you guys. Connecticut's governor is halting the distribution of funds from the state's marijuana social equity fund while the program is reviewed. Governor Ned Lamont called for a halt to the distribution of roughly $33.4 million in funding, as well as the audit, quote unquote, in response to complaints from members of the state's legislative Black and Puerto Rican caucus and other stakeholders. Okay, good. I'm down if the right people are complaining about it. Fairfield-based public radio station WSHU reported this news. The complaints were spurred by concern that the Social Equity Council, which distributed the funds, hasn't been transparent. WHSU reported. The Black and Puerto Rican caucus also is questioning the SEC's choices for, quote unquote, choices for the recipients of community grants, quote, end quote, according to the Hartford-based Connecticut Mirror. Lamont requested that the state controller conduct, quote, a comprehensive review of the SEC, focusing on areas such as governance practices, decision-making processes, financial management, program effectiveness, criteria used in awarding grants and contracts, stakeholder engagement, and adherence to relevant statutes and regulations, end quote. The governor's action came 10 days after the Black and Puerto Rican caucus called for the SEC to halt funding, quote, allocated for community reinvestment, end quote, the Mirror reported. The agency's executive director, Ginny Ray Clay, didn't respond to the Mirror's request for comment. The SEC was formed to lead social equity initiatives within Connecticut's cannabis industry. Meanwhile, the medical marijuana program's Board of Physicians voted Friday to add 2 qualifying conditions for Connecticut's medical marijuana patients. According to New Haven TV station WTNH, the 2 new qualifying conditions apply only to patients 18 and older: autism and female orgasmic difficulty disorder. We spoke about this, I want to say 2 episodes ago on the Morning Joint podcast. You guys should go learn more about that. Connecticut now has 42 qualifying conditions for patients 18 and older and 11 in the state's MMJ youth program, WTNH reported. All right, Ian.
I'd like to, just on that last little statement right there, I'd be curious to know how many qualifying conditions are in place in each of the medical markets. Wouldn't that be interesting? Because
that is interesting.
When I went to Hawaii, and as you know, I got a bunch of dispensary clients in Hawaii, and when I went there, I wanted to get. It's a medical only state. I wanted to bring and they accept reciprocity from places like California or really any other state. And I'm a medical patient here in California, and I wanted to get legit over there in Hawaii. So I went to the website and checked out what I needed to do, pay $100. Okay, fine. And upload your medical information from here. Okay, fine. And this was the kicker, and make sure that you have one of these 5 conditions or something. It was a very small number of conditions, and all of them were exceptionally severe. And God help anybody that has any one of those 5 conditions. I feel sorry for that person. But like the number of things that were not on the list, including what I'm on the list here in California for, was staggering to me. Like there's like almost nothing on the list, and I'm like, this doesn't seem like an expansive medical program at all here. It's quite restrictive. So to understand that there's 40 something over there, I'm like, wow, that's a lot.
What are What are they?
Yeah, I don't know. Right, that's a great question. And how is it that one state will look at a situation like PTSD and decide that it's on the list or it's not on the list?
Right.
I'm curious about that.
In my world, it's like the science should be there, right? I'm 32 years old, man. I sitting here in my life, I just am under the impression that a lot of stuff has already been decided, right? They already did the studies, they already did the research, they already figured out why to make it illegal. It can't be that crazy to flip it, right? And especially with something like cannabis, right? Seemingly so, because it's not like, I mean, have you heard of any stories about the federal government doing any major, massive, huge study to change all this? No, I have not. I've universities, groups, companies, right? But not the federal government.
Yeah.
And so how are we already getting recommended descheduling? How are we already getting all this stuff when the government hasn't even done that yet? So in my eyes, I just got to assume that a lot of that's been decided and they already figured it out and they just made a decision based on something else as a priority over this other priority, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm interested in seeing where this can go. I'm definitely happy to hear that it was the governor, correct? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
I'm definitely happy to hear that.
I didn't mean to disrail us.
No, you're chilling. I'm definitely happy to hear that the governor is actually listening to the Black and Puerto Rican caucus. This is actually huge and very appreciative that they're not just plowing through those questions and through those requests. And so I'm definitely going to continue following that. We want social equity programs, but we don't just want them to have a seat at the table. We want them to be utilized properly. We want them to
exist in name
actually
only.
have impact. Right.
Social equity program can't exist in name only. It has to be effective and it has to represent the stakeholders. And if the stakeholders in this case are asking the governor to put it on pause because they don't see that the program is going to work out for them, then this seems like an appropriate time to take a pause. But my concern in just hearing the headline on this was like, okay, well, it's paused. Well, when's it going to unpause?
Yeah, that was the question I have. So hopefully we can get some visibility and some clarity on when that's going to come back around. I think that's super important to be able to know how long that timeline is going to be, because there's people out there, these social equity applicants, these business owners, they got bills on the line.
You cannot delay this,
man.
So it's concerning. The headlines concerning
New York and California, all these people that they were expecting these rollouts to happen, and it's like they just take so long, and then lawsuits happen.
Yeah. So it's
sending good energy to the state of Connecticut, man, and I hope that gets worked out. You ready for the final story here on today's episode?
Go.
Are you ready?
I don't know. Is it going to be shocking?
It is, as it applies to us.
Okay.
California, according to staff writer Chris Casaccia, MJ Biz Daily, California cannabis product recalls are on the rise. All right. Let me go ahead and share this story so people can read along with me. All right, here we go. Ian, I'm going to read the first half of it and then I'll pass it off. California regulators are initiating more cannabis product recalls and health warnings to consumers. In the past month alone, I have also reported on a cannabis product recall. But additionally, in the past month alone, the Department of Cannabis Control, which is California's chief marijuana regulator, has issued 6 product recalls, and the California Department of Public Health issued a consumer warning regarding certain hemp-infused beverages. Oh, man. So far this year, regulators have issued at least 23 cannabis product recalls, easily surpassing the 3 recalls issued in both 23 and 22. Ian, 2? Oh, my God. That's it?
My first thought is, did we miss things in 2023?
Oh, my God.
Or has the issue of recalls just really increased? I hope we didn't miss it in 2023.
quote unquote, these recalls are the result of increased inspections and product testings. There's your supposed answer,
There we go.
according
We had
to the
this issue in
DCC
2023.
spokesperson Maria Warren. MJ Biz Daily reported in April that several of the recalls this year have been prompted by the presence of aspergillus, a fungus that can grow on cannabis plants. Newsweek reported in May on similar developments. We covered those stories. Ian, what's going on with the flower recall?
Yeah, so on Monday, the DCC issued mandatory recall of flower products from Bloom Blocks Flower and Pat's Flower sold on or after October of last year. And these recalled products are the 1 gram LA Pop Rocks and Purple Kush, and the 14 gram LA Pop Rocks and Purple Push Pop. So
I think these are, yeah, I think these, it's maybe Purple Push, well, yeah, Purple Push Pop. That's a good little flavorful strain if done correct.
Yeah. So, and according to this recall notice, these products were packaged by Pate Real Estate, which does business as Stella Farms, a cultivator based in North Hollywood, according to his websites, and they were sold at a Dr. Green Thumb's dispensary in LA near the airport. And so we've got a health warning on infused sodas. Last week, the health department warned consumers not to drink Mary Jones's hemp-infused sodas because they are mislabeled and contain specific ingredients prohibited under state law.
What? I did hear that there was some hemp-derived products regarding the laws in California that were, yeah. See, here it is.
Yeah. So there you go. Industrial hemp products are legal in California, but banned under state law from containing THC isolate. To be separate. Regulators confirmed that several soda stock keeping units were violated state law by containing hemp-derived Delta-9 THC. The beverages, according to health officials, were manufactured in Michigan and distributed to retailers across California, as well as consumers through direct online purchases. These 12-ounce cans under recall include the Mary Jane's Orange and Cream Hemp-Infused Soda, the Mary Jane's Berry Lemonade Hemp-Infused Soda, and the Mary Jones Green Apple Hemp-Infused Soda. So all these products are included in the state's warning and should not be consumed. The Department of Health says it's working with other agencies to find, test, and remove these products from the shelves, and it's partnering with local health departments to educate the public about products and provide appropriate steps if they've been consumed or encountered. So, and more enforcement is looming, according to California Governor. Seattle-based Jones Soda has yet to issue a voluntary recall of its intoxicating hemp products, and the health department issued a violation notice in May. The distributor and retailers are subject to additional enforcement actions, including civil or criminal penalties if they continue to sell the recalled product. And Jones Soda has not responded to MJ Biz Daily requests for comments. And in May, a news release announcing Jones' first quarter earnings, CEO and President David Knight highlighted the company's Delta-9 THC infused drinks as the cannabis beverage brand continues its geographic and product expansion, saying, "Our newly launched hemp-based Delta-9 products have been met with incredible reception from the broader consumer base, and we believe this product line will be a core growth driver going forward." And I think he's actually right about that hemp drinks are absolutely going to be increasing in popularity.
Absolutely.
I think the entire beverage market, whether it's THC or hemp derived, is going to see expansion. Drinks are popular, and they're very social as well, right? Like we're accustomed to sitting around and sharing a beer, having a beer together or a glass of wine together, something like that. So sitting together and having an infused beverage is it's cultural already. So I think this.
I would 100% agree, man. I've been buying CBD drinks at smoke shops for years. Now I go into grocery outlet and Ralph's and Safeway and Albertsons. I don't think I've seen it in any of the Mexican or like Latin Hispanic stores that are around me, like at Vallarta here. But
I want to ask you a question on your experience with infused drinks. So edibles don't work for me. Like taking gummies and all that stuff.
We've discussed this though. It's because you're Irish.
I don't know. Something's broken inside of me. The only cannabis that like really seems to work on me is flower.
Is your home grow?
Is more than my home grow, but flower specifically. I would love to be able to sort of get away from the flower consumption and head to, edibles, gummies, drinks, those kinds of things. But so far, I haven't found anything that works on me. Now, somebody recently told me, "Oh yeah, Ian, I'm the same way. Edibles, I can eat, 5 bags of gummies, won't even touch."
Well, let's walk through. Let's walk through
drinks.
Because you smoke, Ian. But remember, you're using cannabis to achieve something. Even if you're doing something and you're smoking with it, you're doing it to amplify whatever it is that you're doing or improve it or whatever. And then there's some, even like if the relaxing, you're kicking back, you're smoking. You've smoked different strains for years, different strains for different things, right? And so, what do you want out of your beverage, right? Is it while we're at Taco Tuesday, right? Is it while you're going for a walk? Like I drink and walk with a seltzer while I'm smoking, and like at the first part of my walk, I drink a seltzer and I smoke, and then after that, I turn it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, on my walk.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the goal with that beverage, right? And there's nothing. You know how people, boat life, people that have boats, they always got liquor, right? They always got but it's never just one bottle. They got a variety of stuff. So you got to think, treat your beverage habits and extend that into cannabis, and always have a variety of stuff. Have the 100 milligram things that are I'm stoned on the couch, because that's what you're smoking when you're chilling at home. And then have the ones that just taste good while you're out and about, because you're used to smoking a joint while you're out and about, right? You're not going to get the same effect, though. That's physically not possible.
Oh, sure. But yeah. I guess my question really, somebody told me that they're like, Ian, I'm really immune to edibles also, but if I have a THC beverage, I feel that. I'm like, really? That's interesting. So I have to check out some beverages.
Do tinctures work for you?
No.
Yeah, then it's the carrier method.
Carrier method?
Yeah, however that THC is being carried into your body.
Yeah.
The delivery method.
It's the delivery method that makes all the difference for me. Yeah. And honestly, I'd love to switch to other delivery methods that are.
Well, the problem with it is 100 milligrams in a beverage. Like if I filled this whole cup up, right, which is probably 2 cups of water, or maybe 2.5 cups of water. If I put 100 milligrams worth of weed in it, which is what would get you high or feel it, right, or 200 or 300. That's water's not going to taste like water no more, right? It's going to taste like weed. And so it's covering up that flavor is the hardest part in beverages. And at this point, with our max limits in California and most states being either 10 milligrams, 5 milligrams, or 100 milligrams, the reality is that they're all just pretty much using sugar to cover it up and mask it. Plus, I think what's called bitter blockers, and those don't taste very good either. And so there's just not a great there are great beverages out there, don't get me wrong, but there's still faults to those beverages in terms of flavor.
Yeah.
They're not perfect. And it's just the nature of this cannabis. It's almost like how beer has this edginess, or alcohol does. It's that bite, and you're supposed to appreciate that version of that bite, right? And cannabis, we're just not going to get you the same experience, unfortunately, out of beverages. Yeah. But I feel like it could definitely replace the casual joint when you're walking around, or most of that stigma, the stigma that comes with joints or blunts.
I think that the whole beverage product category is going to really explode, both on THC side and the hemp derived side.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree. Well, hey, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. This was a great 4th episode of the Cannabis Business Podcast. For those of you guys that were watching, I really appreciate you guys hanging out. This was definitely Ian's and I's longest episode, and I feel like for today, we delivered the best content for you guys. If you guys need to learn anything about payment processing or taking people's money via payments, not stealing their money, but accepting payments in the world of hemp and cannabis, Ian can definitely tap you in with
and psychedelics.
And psychedelics. He can definitely get you tapped in. Hemp, cannabis, psychedelics. Ian has very extensive experience in that. If you're just a small business, not just a small business, but if you are a small business, he can assist you with that as well. Restaurants, salons, all the things. He can assist you with it, being able to take people's money digitally for the services you provide and the products you offer. You guys, I love y'all. I very much appreciate you guys. Ian, thank you as always. Reminder, if you're in California or in Washington, go to your local dispensary and ask for the Respect My Region weed, RMR Legacy Smalls. We'll see you guys next month. Talk soon.